Our guest today is Lori Lippman-Brown, who is a lawyer, an educator, and a former Nevada state senator. Since 2005, she has been the director of the Secular Coalition for America, lobbying Congress on behalf of non-theistic Americans. Brown's awards include the Free Thought Backbone Award from the Secular Student Alliance, Civil Libertarian of the Year from Southern Nevada ACLU, and Legislator of the Year from the Nevada chapter of the National Association of Social Workers. I'm also happy to say that Lori Lippman-Brown is known to ethical culture, since she was really the face of the Secular Coalition for us, as we, as a national movement, agreed to be partners with the Secular Coalition. And it's been a great partnership developing so far, but it's still new. And so it's my great pleasure to invite Lori up to speak today on the topic, making our voice heard on Capitol Hill, which will help us all become a bit more familiar with that. Lori?
Thank you. Before I address the topic, I do want to mention that the Ethical Culture Society has also been a welcome addition to the Secular Coalition. I think it adds the humanistic touch that obviously American Humanist Association and Humanistic Judaism had, but even warmer and ethicaler.
We'll take it.
When I was hired to be the first paid staff of the Secular Coalition for America in 2005, the 5 national organizations which comprised the Secular Coalition at that time really didn't know how the first congressional lobbyist explicitly representing non-theistic Americans would be received in Congress, in the media, and amongst theistic church-state separation groups. My first 2 days on the job, September 19th and 20th, 2005, made it clear that the Secular Coalition would be accepted and have an impact beyond the most optimistic predictions of its founders. And this continues, by the way. On September 19th, I was invited to attend briefings regarding religious discrimination in Head Start and regarding vouchers. These invitations were from coalitions which included theistic church-state separation supporters, such as the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty, the Interfaith Alliance, and the Religious Action Center for Reform Judaism. The larger circle of groups also included church-state separation supporters who were neither theistic nor non-theistic. Groups like Americans United for Separation of Church and State, People for the American Way, the ACLU. And the voucher group included a number of public education organizations. On day 2, I was included in these larger groups on approximately a dozen lobby visits. While the Secular Coalition now conducts hundreds of lobby visits each year, many of which we walk into on our own, our favorites are still the times we get to sit next to our colleagues in these larger alliances. It is admirable that the larger church-state separation community, as well as numerous civil rights organizations, recognized that non-theist does not equal anti-religion, and that none hesitated to include what, according to recent surveys, is still the most hated minority in the country: Americans who rely on non-supernatural life stances. That is, when it comes to societal hatred, non-theists are not trusted, are disparaged, are assumed to be immoral, and are discriminated against in the voting booth and in other areas of American life. On my first night on the job, I had the opportunity to explain non-theistic ethics to a national television audience as a guest on Fox's Big Story. Although I had no idea what the host would ask me, his first question gave me the opportunity to dispel the lie that there are no atheists in foxholes, and to give credit to patriotic Americans who serve in the military, but don't share the majority's religious belief in any deity. But the second question had to do with the aftermath of the then recent tragedy of Hurricane Katrina. And this question gave me the opportunity to explain the ethics of a humanistic life stance on my first day on this job to millions of Americans. I explained first that many patriotic Americans served in the U.S. military and would be in D.C. the following month for an Atheist in Foxholes event, when the questioner said, "We all know there are no atheists in foxholes." And then when the questioner said, so if you were in Hurricane Katrina and the water were coming up to your neck, you would pray, wouldn't you? And I said, no, I would not be praying. I would be trying to get out of the water. But I obviously didn't stop there. You never stop there when you have a moment where you can get your message across and increase the respectability and visibility of non-theistic viewpoints. I explained that the fact that non-theists do not rely on an outside force to help people in need may explain why atheists, humanists, and other non-theists have raised so much money, and so many of us have gone to New Orleans to help. I explained that we believe we have to do everything we can to make the world better in this, what we believe to be our only life. When I accepted this job, I will admit I was more excited about the prospect of living in my favorite city, Washington, D.C., and finally working at a dream job for a political junkie like myself, than I was necessarily about the topic I would be lobbying on, non-theist rights. I had spent decades working on reproductive rights and lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender equality. I had served as a National Education Association diversity trainer, traveling the country, dealing with difficult racial, ethnic, and other minority issues. So I was not certain that giving a voice to non-theists in the halls of Congress was the most important thing I could be doing. However, it took me less than 24 hours to realize that it is essential that ethical culturists and other non-theistic Americans must have a public voice in the political mix. This is tremendously important to the daily lives of the approximately 45 million non-theists in the United States. Here's how I found this out. On my first day on the job, USA Today newspaper published an article about the Secular Coalition for America and my hire. On that first day, people around the country read the article, and emails and phone calls started pouring in. Most were from parts of the country I have never lived in. Tennessee, Texas, Alabama, the Panhandle of Florida, areas known as the Bible Belt, and the South. Having grown up in New York and spending most of my life in Las Vegas, Nevada, living in Los Angeles during law school, the most uncomfortable thing about answering questions regarding my belief was that some people would automatically dislike me for not sharing a God with them. But the calls and emails I received that day were from people who were frightened and hiding their beliefs. One man, who sounded elderly, seemed to be near tears on the phone as he told me, "I've never told anyone this before, and I was even afraid to make this phone call. But I don't believe in a God, and I'm so glad you're there doing this work. And are there any humanists near me here in Tennessee?" The fact that the Secular Coalition is a coalition with a number of member organizations like the American Ethical Union that has local congregations and chapters means we can also send that person to local folks like him. And if there isn't a physical one, there's always Ethical Without Walls. Yeah. EWOW.